EAGLES. Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen. You just can't see the beautiful mug of John McMullen. Well, you can see the still on the screen, but you can't see actually Johnny Mac. We got some internet issues this morning, but we are prevailing, and we will be here for you to give you a rundown. J-Mac, how you doing on this Football Friday, my friend? It's Friday the 13th. And apparently it came for your internet bright and early.
Yeah, man, it's actually been a good week, I think. For last week was a bad week for technical problems. This week, I thought we made it through, and here we are on Friday. Cecily Tynan, the great 6ABC meteorologist, she tweeted something out for the local people in Philadelphia area. So the snowpack on the ground, it's the longest it's stuck around since 1961. Since 1961, I don't know. I think that's the issue. That's what's going on with these internet outages. But hopefully it's going to turn soon because it's going to be 40s and 50s for the next 7-8 days. So hopefully some of this garbage will get out of here. And for the snow people, yeah, go what yourself, because this shit is a pain in the ass.
It is. It has become a royal pain in the ass, especially when it sticks around for the longest time since 1960. Are we getting any heat? Any idea? Not heat, but are we getting any temperatures warm enough to melt this crap?
That's what today is supposed to be like 37-ish locally, and then the next 7 or 8 days it's going to be in the 40s or 50s. Okay. So it probably won't it won't get rid of all of it, but it'll get rid of quite a bit at least. But Xfinity, I can't say the term, so we'll say it rhymes with Schmexfinity. Yeah, get your house in order.
Yeah, I don't know, Johnny Mac. We're all beholden to the internet in the year 2026, and I assume that will continue. But we are here live with you, everybody. Good to see everybody. Hope everybody had a good week and a good Friday here. We thank you for listening to Birds 365. We do have some great topics to talk about today. We will run as long as Johnny Mac's phone will hold. All right, which it is a big task for the phones to stay on streaming. So. We will run as long as we can here on Birds 365. Johnny Mac, a couple things to talk about in Eagle Land, and a lot of them are, let's just say they're off-season conversations, which is a good thing. But I want to make sure that we get our house in order. Any update, John, that's real, that's a report that is worthy of giving the people today on a Football Friday before we get into some of the, I don't know if you want to call it rage bait or whatever you want to call it, but it's there's some stuff out there that we're going to hit, but I'm more looking for what's the latest in Eagle Land with the coaching staff, and the next step here in the offseason.
Yeah, the coaching staff is pretty much set, except for quarterbacks, which hasn't been officially labeled. Now, the perception is, and I actually, because we were talking about yesterday, I actually checked into it from Las Vegas side. They actually removed Greg Olsen from their website, which is an indication that they have moved on from him. So, that throws another curveball into the mix because, the Eagles wanted to interview him. I don't know if they actually did. They interviewed the kid from Arizona who's like 30 years old. And, anytime you start looking for people outside the organization, when you have a quarterback's coach that is under contract like Scott Loeffler and you're holding on to him, it's an indication, well, you're trying to get somebody you think might be a better fit. And I focused in on Olsen because he used to coach Sean Mannion in Seattle as a position coach. But evidently he's available. So you don't have to you don't have to wait for Las Vegas. So that even throws, as I said, another curveball into it because it's like, well, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? Either you want the guy, you don't want the guy, or you want to keep Loeffler, or you don't want to keep Loeffler. So a little bit strange, but right now, I mean, Scott Leffler's still the quarterback's coach. The longer it went, that's what I said before, they made it kind of official. It's still not official, but behind the scenes, we're able to get confirmation that Jamal Singleton and Aaron Moorhead will be back. I mentioned the longer it goes, the better it is for guys like that. And the same would apply for Scott Leffler. The only difference was they weren't actively interviewing running backs coaches or potential wide receivers coaches. Here they were interviewing potential quarterbacks coaches. So that's the lone open-ended discussion with the coaching staff. The rest of it is basically done. You'll have some promotions, lower level guys. You might even have an addition. Tyler Yelk, as I mentioned, is a lower level defensive assistant. He's leaving, so they'll have to replace him. But the major ones that fans would pay attention to in the position groups, the only one with any sort of still uncertainty around it is the quarterback position. And by the way, I don't know, how does the phone come across? Because my wife is home today, and she's talking. Can anybody hear that?
No, you're good, John. I just hear you loud and clear, and I do not hear your wife, so you don't have to worry about her
All
leaking
right, because
anything into the
I wanted to figure something out that maybe go somewhere else. But from the standpoint of that, as I said, now safeties coach as well, because Joe Casper was the safeties coach. Technically, they don't have a safeties coach now, as he got promoted to replace Christian Parker. You know, a lot of teams don't have split it up like the Eagles. They might not split it up. They might split it up, but again, lower level discussions more than the high profile stuff, which is done and in the rearview mirror.
John, good stuff. We'll see what ends up happening with this. John, how important is the quarterback position? I know we're all harping on it just because it's the last domino to fall, but how important is it? I mean, there's been as much change at that position as there has the offensive coordinator, and I already know how you personally feel about this, but everybody, puts all when it's bad, it's all on the offensive coordinator and the inconsistency. When they win, Kellen Moore's a genius. Whatever, you know how it goes. How important is the quarterback coach?
Well, I think it's important because that's the guy who works with Jalen Hurts on a day-to-day basis when it comes to technique and fundamentals and footwork and things like that. I mean, the offense, obviously Sean Mannion will be steering the ship, and he's a former quarterback himself, so he'll be, stuck to the hip as much as he can be with Jalen Hurts moving forward this season. But you do need somebody to do the day-to-day grind work in practice, and that to me is more important this year than maybe typically, because you're at least projecting to do a lot of different things, and a lot of that, when you talk about the presumptions of a Shanahan McVay like scheme, is a lot more under center, a lot more play action, and that requires different footwork than Jalen Hurts has been doing for much of his career. So I do think it's a little more important this year. And that's why I thought, Olsen made a lot of sense, because he's obviously got a ton of experience in what Sean Mannion wants to do, and taught Sean Mannion how to do it himself. And obviously to the level where Sean wanted to talk to him about the job. So I do think it's slightly more important this year, just because of the projected technique changes at the position.
Yep, we're going to see how that plays out. And so Olsen is that the one name right now, John? Did you mention any other names that we know? Or it's
I forget his name. He's like 30 years old. I'll look it up if I can find it. Connor Singler is the other guy they actually did interview. And he was a passing game specialist. I don't have the exact title in front of me, in Arizona. A very young guy, certainly different than Olsen, who's like 62 and has been around, and I think 30% of the league, coaching at some point in his career. used to be a quarterback himself at Wisconsin and then Wisconsin Oshkosh. And basically his only job has been with Arizona with Jonathan Gannon. So he started out in quality control, then he was assistant quarterbacks coach, then he was passing game specialist. So they did talk to him about the job. Now, again, that would fit into the young where they're going with Sean at 33 and Josh Grizzard at 35 and even Chris Cooper at whatever he is, 41, 42, somewhere in that range. But that would fit more in that sort of new breed mode. But, that was a while ago and haven't heard anything about him. So I don't think they're going to head in that direction, but that's just speculation.
John, any thought on who you think would fit with Jalen Hurts more? I mean, Jalen is a very, he's got a style, he's got a personality. Some refer to him as like an old soul, which I think is an accurate description of him. And you've seen him with quarterback coaches that are, older and kind of, very experienced veteran guys like Nussmeier, guys who've been around for a long time. And you've also seen him with younger quarterback coaches. Anything that you've seen in your experience or interaction or all the reporting that you've done, all the events that you've attended, the games, the practices, all those things, anything that you can see that would insinuate Jalen responds better to one style or another, or one, I don't want to say age or another, because it's not all about that, one experience level or another?
No, I mean, all I've heard about Jalen Hurts is he's very coachable. He wants to be coached. That's been a consistent theme throughout, and I think that's because he's Nick talks about that a lot. He's a coach's kid, like Nick is. I think they have that in common, and they want to be coached hard, and they want to be coached. So I don't think that part. In fact, you've talked about the changes. We always talk about the changes at offensive coordinator. There's been just as many changes at quarterbacks coach because of the same reasons. The year they failed, Alex Tanney got blown out, and now if they change again, same thing will happen. And you have only guys for 1 year. Doug Nussmeier, obviously, because they were successful. And Kellen and him are very tight, and he took him to be the offensive coordinator in New Orleans. So it's been a year-to-year process. But I've never, you think about guys like Nussmeier and Leffler who are older, as opposed to Alex Tanney, who's younger. You never really heard anything about Jalen likes this guy because of experience. There was that little clip from Hard Knocks where, I don't know, he said something that people took viral during a quarterback meeting with Leffler. And I can't even understand what he said, so I didn't think much of it, other than that's his personality. But I think he's the type of guy, because he is a coach's son, that likes to be coached hard, and I think that's a good thing. To me, it's more about the other side and who's more capable of teaching him the technique and getting him on up to speed as quickly as possible. If you really want to do more drop back traditional passing, who's the guy who can unlock that and get him to the highest degree? And that, to me, is really all it would be about.
We'll see what ends up happening with that, John. Good response there. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. All right, that's the latest on where the Eagles are in the offseason. It is Friday, February 13th, so we're moving right along. John, what is next here? We got the combines coming up. We got a bunch of stuff coming up here right in the calendar. The NFL has that short little week and a half of dead time, which isn't really dead time after the Super Bowl, and then they get right back into it for getting ready for the draft and things of that nature. What's next for this offseason?
Yeah, the combine is next, and this is not a dead time because everybody's ramping up. I mean, behind the scenes, it's not a dead time. Everybody's ramping up and shifting from sort of coaching changes to free agency and then the draft. And as I said with the combine, I think on the surface it's more about the draft because you're looking, in NFL Network will have the underwear Olympics, and you're looking at the prospects, but really, it's more about free agency because it's like a league convention in Indianapolis where all the agents and personnel executives get together at the various restaurants and bars around town. And that's where the foundation is laid for these deals that are going to be made that people are starting to talk about. And I think you're going to bring one of them up, and you started to talk about it yesterday, which has been, if you listen to Birds 365, I can't force you, but if you listen, all the A.J. Brown stuff is coming from outside the building, not necessarily inside the building. The Eagles are very tight-lipped with that kind of stuff. So, but everybody in the league thinks they're moving A.J. Brown.
Get ready, everybody. The rumor mill is about to pick up, as John's been telling you, where they talk about all these potential deals. Good opening segment here on Birds 365. Thanks, everybody. Hit the like button. We're going to shift into our second segment. John just kind of gave me the perfect runway, the perfect lead into it, John. A couple things, the next couple things we'll talk about, I will admit, are a little bit, let's call them drama-based. All right, we'll call them drama-based. We got Jason Kelce talking about A.J. Brown. We got to talk about that a little bit. We have Emmanuel Acho and Shady McCoy talking about Jalen Hurts at the Super Bowl. I thought that was interesting just because of a comment that you made earlier in the year about Hurts' personality. I don't really care much about it, but I do want to bring it up. We'll bring that up from Emmanuel Acho and his experience with Jalen Hurts at the Super Bowl. And the third one would be, John, what you alluded to, Jeremy Fowler talking about the combine, A.J. Brown, and then he also floated that the Eagles could look to draft a day 2 quarterback, and I quote, to put a little pressure on Jalen Hurts, and he compared it to Jalen Hurts replacing Carson Wentz. That's from Jeremy Fowler, who's generally a pretty plugged-in guy. Doesn't mean he's going to be right, but generally a pretty plugged-in guy. So let's start with Jeremy Fowler, John, and that report or that update that he put out on ESPN. Specifically the AJ stuff we know. I mean, that's going to be talked about. But I did think it was interesting hearing from Jeremy Fowler about the quarterback. I know we've speculated the potential of that, and, the quarterback factory waits for no one, as they say, John, but your initial reaction to just Jeremy Fowler putting that out, and especially the quote, the comment about pressuring Hurts. I think that's it almost sounded intentional because, Tanner McKee's going to be done in contract soon. Yeah, they're going to draft a quarterback to get a backup. You need quarterbacks on the roster. I don't think it has to be framed as, all right, you're gunning for somebody to take the starter's job, but it seemed almost intentional that Fowler used that. Your thoughts on that comment from Jeremy Fowler?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything more than the Eagles rolling over the backup quarterback situation for now, obviously, and the day 2 part of it, obviously because of what's happened in the past, it's natural for people to go down that path. Most second round picks do not develop the way Jalen Hurts has. So I think, I don't think that's a strategy, a solid strategy if you're looking for the next franchise quarterback or even somebody to push him. And then you start looking at the quarterback draft class, and it's not that deep. So, a lot of things have to align to draft a quarterback on day 2. One, you got to like the player, which is, again, other than Fernando Mendoza, who's going to go number 1 overall, you can't guarantee any other quarterbacks going in the first round. Now, I think there will be because it's a quarterback desperate league, and I think teams will as normally happens, push quarterbacks up the board. I think your guy Ty Simpson I think he'll be a first round pick, even though I don't think he should be.
I don't think he should either.
Trinidad Chambliss, I know a lot of people are high on. There's no way he's going to be. I don't even think he's going to be a
I think
second
the
round
court
pick.
ruled John and him on him yesterday that he's going to have another year of eligibility. So I don't know if he's declared.
Well, yeah, and he might stay because he's got a big money deal, and I would and I missed that. If it did, I would think he'd be
the court
staying.
ruled. I saw it yesterday. Yep.
Yeah, so I would think then he'd be staying, so he'd be out of the mix, and I don't think he's a day two guy anyway. That's the reason why I would recommend he stay. The one guy, because I just mentioned him, and I didn't know we were going to be talking about this. His father, Doug Nussmeier. The Eagles do like Garrett Nussmeier. Now, maybe part of that was because Doug was in the building, but they really liked him as a prospect. Now, where's he going to go? Like a lot of people, he's a guy who I think is going to go way higher than people think, because of the desperation at the position in the draft, and there are no great options. So if he ends up going bottom of the first round, early second round, I think he's out of the equation. But if he fails, like, PFF has him 81st on the big board. So, that's third round. Well, if he's in the third round, I could see the Eagles taking him, but I don't think that's realistic. And then you got the Carson Becks of the world and the Cade Klubniks of the world. Now, these might be Drew Aller from Penn State. These might be Tanner McKee, solid, cost-effective backup quarterbacks, but I don't think pushing Jalen Hurts would be on the periscope for any of them early in their careers.
It doesn't sound like it to me either, John. But I guess the thought of bringing in a quarterback is one of those words, John, that, the reality is, John, and I respect you greatly because you've never, ever done your job this way. But we do live in a world where, John, people get paid on clicks and attention. And, it's part of being in the media. You have to do it to keep your business afloat. I'll be the first to tell you, if we don't have watchers on Birds 365, Birds 365 doesn't exist anymore. But it just feels like you bring some of that stuff up, and it's just going to go boom. It's going to catch fire instantly and be talked about all over. So some of that, I don't know how much of it to, really.
Well, and to speak about Jeremy specifically, he's very plugged in. So
yeah,
he's not one of the guys who doesn't have information. But I do think, and even he framed it that way. When things happen in a certain city, and like what happened, which wasn't even the plan, which is hilarious to me. And they draft Jalen Hurts to be a cost-effective backup, but things go south and off the rails with Carson Wentz. And it works out for the Eagles. Then the perception becomes, the revisionist history takes over. Well, they might do it again. They didn't even do it for the first time, Zander. It just worked out.
Right.
It wasn't the plan. I mean, some of that is just based on past history, which I think is over the years people have lost the context of what actually went down with that draft choice, which was just about getting a cost-effective backup, and maybe if he played 2 or 3 games here and there, you could spin him off for the high draft. What people say about Tanner McKee right now, maybe they could spin him off for a draft pick, and do it again and do it over again. So it wouldn't shock me because of Tanner McKee. And in fact, it would shock me if they don't they're going to take a quarterback.
Yeah,
they might be in the 5th round on day 3, but they're going to take a quarterback.
Well, that's what
they believe in.
Because, like, if it's second or third rounder, while I do agree with you, I don't think any of these guys are contending. That is a premium pick, right? Like that is going to be looked at differently.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I said. Who belongs. And if Garrett Nussmeier's in the third round, which I don't think he will be, but if he is, yeah, I could see the Eagles taking him. But it wouldn't be to pressure Jalen Hurts. It would be, we think this guy's good value. And then if Jalen Hurts, again, the revision will be, well, they took him, if he turns into a star, the revision will be, well, they took him to put pressure on Jalen Hurts and yada, yada, yada. But, if Jalen doesn't take to what they're going to do offensively, and maybe they want to go in a different direction, maybe it works out that way, but I don't think they're going into it with the plan of pushing Jalen Hurts, is how I would describe it.
Well, then, do you think that? Do you think then? I'm not going to say you think Jeremy was wrong, but do you more look at that as like a speculation based on what the Eagles have done, as opposed to him hearing?
Yeah, I think it's
that, hey, the Eagles are maybe not happy with Hurts or whatever, or they're going to try and pick. Like, is it less that and more speculation in your opinion?
Well, no, the Eagles are going to draft a quarterback. That part of it's real. Again,
Well, right. But what I'm asking about though is really the other part. I think most of us know they're going to draft a quarterback. The second and third rounder thing though, where he says pressure on Hurts, I think is where I'm looking.
Yeah. That to me is based on what happened in the past, and again, right. That's a misinterpretation of what happened in the past. The Eagles didn't draft Jalen Hurts to put pressure on Carson Wentz. They didn't. I don't care how many people and how many followers they have and how many. That's complete revisionist history. Complete revisionist history. Now, in fact, that
it was an unintended consequence, though, right?
Oh yeah, it was a tremendous unintended consequence to the point where I've criticized Howie Roseman for not understanding that might happen. Now you would hope Carson would take it in a more professional fashion, which I don't think he did. And that, to be honest, is a mistake by Howie Roseman, but the mistake was erased by the fact that Carson went off the rails and Jalen delivered. So, yeah, I mean, does anyone believe the Eagles thought that was what they were doing? I mean, that's nuts. That's complete revisionist. That is, they wanted Carson to the point in 2021 when Nick Sirianni was interviewing to be the Eagles' next head coach and ultimately got the job. Much of the interview was about how will you get Carson Wentz back on track. As late as that, Nick Sirianni came here thinking Carson Wentz was going to be his quarterback.
Right.
So as late as that, and Carson went a different road, and this is relevant to AJ. Sometimes when a player just says, you know what, I don't want it, I don't want to come back, you got to get rid of him, and that's what happened. And even if you go as late as 2022, after Jalen performed well in his first year as a starter and got the team to the playoffs in a year they weren't expected to make the playoffs, they were still calling Deshaun Watson's agent and trying to get in that mix like the rest of the league. And they were trying to get in the Russell Wilson mix, a player they always loved, as late as 2022. So it's complete revision of what some people perceive happened.
No doubt. John, another word, well, there's a trend I think that's emerging here, and I'll lay that out for you, what I think that is, and something you've been talking about a long time. But the other word that Fowler used when talking about this wasn't just a pressure Hurts comment, but he put that, and I'll get the word exactly because the word was interesting. I read Caden's Steele article. Fowler says Hurts is at a, and I quote, crossroads with the organization. Now, John, I'm going to say this before you respond to the use of that word. A trend that seems to live in Philadelphia inside the walls of the NovaCare complex and within the ownership and the decision makers is that they are an impatient bunch. And there's been moments where that has been very beneficial. And there's also been moments where I think that it's gone to unnecessary degrees. And, I understand that, Jalen Hurts is a certain style of player. I understand that at times the offense doesn't look how people want it to look, me included. I mean, really? The quarterback's at a crossroads with the organization after winning 11 games coming off a Super Bowl? Like, is this just the Eagles organization that is just they don't have a lick of patience on anything, John? And maybe that's a good way to be in business. There's some benefits to that, but your thoughts on the use of the word crossroads with the organization for Jalen Hurts?
Well, I agree. They're an 11-win team that acts like a 5-win team. That's how I described it this offseason. There is a lack of patience, and you can frame that in a good way. In that essence, the standard is so high that you're always looking to reach this tremendous standard. So that can be a positive. It can be a negative. I think you see when it is a positive, and I think you see when it's a negative. And right now it's a negative because they are very impatient. And Jalen Hurts is in the same equation. I mean, let's be honest. They want to change the offense, and they're hiring all these guys to change the offense because they think the pass formula is no longer going to be successful. At least certain people in the organization believe that. So, traditionally, this is not what he has done in his skill set or been asked to do traditionally in a large scale fashion. So, you have a complete unknown on how he handles this style of offense. You just basically have two extremes screaming at each other. He can't do it. Why can't he do it? He did it, in the Super Bowl. He did it, his highest level games. You have this back and forth, which is not by any realm realistic from either side of it. And the the end game will be somewhere in the middle. And for the Eagles, the middle probably isn't going to be good enough unless they can get back to 13 wins, and I'm not going to say Super Bowl wins, but at least NFC championship games. I mean, that's the standard at the bare minimum. And yeah, right now they're an 11-win team who acts like a 5-win team. That could be spun as good, but it could be spun as bad as well. And the reality is, in some aspects, it is good. In some aspects, it is bad. But everybody in this organization is caught up in it, and that includes the quarterback.
Right.
I mean, Nick Sirianni's caught up in it. The head coach, the quarterback, everybody's caught up in it.
The relentless pursuit, and you're right. It can be good, and it can have negatives too. And you're seeing a little bit of both of them. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. I did think that was an interesting word there, John. The crossroads comment, and I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's the right way to do it, but it'd be pretty easy, John, if you do believe that, to get the evidence to support that. They're changing the scheme up to something that I don't think is Jalen Hurts' style. Has never been Jalen Hurts' style. That's not to say that he can't do it. We're going to find out, I think. But, you could take that as a passive-aggressive message, to the quarterback in some regards.
Well, I think it's a passive-aggressive message to everybody, not just the quarterback. I think, it's, again, most notably Nick Sirianni. Nick's the wild card in all this because, as I said, he's already been through this. And he plays the game well in the offseason. And he talks the big game. And then, when the games come, when the season comes, he reverts back to what he's always been, which is win the game, no matter what it looks like. To me, that's a positive. To other people, it's not a positive. But the question is, along the way, can you, and this is going to be a very charged word like crosswords, can you manipulate the owner? And I know people will say manipulates um, is generally a negative fashion, but I think when it comes to NFL owners, I think it's common. It's commonplace because they're not the football experts, but they are in charge of everything. And
Right.
if they want something done, it's got to be done. So how do you manipulate them? In other words, you almost
Yeah, I
manage
know
might be
exactly what
better.
you mean. You got to get people who might not understand every part of it to be on board, or else
Exactly.
it's
So you
going to
have
be
to
thrown
maybe
out.
manage them is a better word.
Yeah, right.
Think of it like I'm a big spy guy. I like spy movies. I like spy shows. You have a handler. You have to handle them. You have to get them going in the direction that you want them to go, even though they might want to go in a different direction. And that is a valuable tool to have if you can, again, use whatever word you want to use. If you can manage people to go in the direction, and you're the expert. Um, and that's Nick's job. And some people will roll their eyes at that. But again, his resume is his resume. Um, he's certainly a football expert compared to Jeffrey Lurie. Uh, but how do you get to the position you want to get to, which in Nick's case has been, at least for 5 consecutive years, it's been, well, I want to win the football game no matter what, versus I want to win the football game this way. And by the way, if you're being honest with yourself and everybody's being logical with themselves, it's Nick's position is way better than Jeffrey's position.
We'll see, John. John, good comment there. Good reaction to that report from Jeremy Fowler. We will see how it shakes out. The other thing that Jeremy talked about, John, which we've talked about already, John, it's February 13th, and the biggest offseason story. I already feel like we've talked about it ad nauseum, and I'm done with it. I'm like, all right, just get some clarity to this, please. AJ Brown. The Eagles will entertain AJ Brown trades at the combine is the other thing that Fowler talked about when it comes to the Eagles. Nothing new here. We're not breaking any news. This is something that's been talked about all year, basically. Your reaction to Fowler saying that about AJ and the combines?
Yeah, well, again, we mentioned when that came out on Super Bowl Sunday, and you had the report, well, the Eagles haven't talked about trading AJ Brown. I said, yeah, pump the brakes. Nobody's talking about trading anybody at this time. That's not how it works um, on the calendar, the NFL calendar. That'll start in Indianapolis. Um, and what Jeremy, I believe, was talking about, the perception around the league is that the Eagles are going to trade A.J. Brown, which has been the perception for quite a long while. That's where all the Diana reporting comes from that people hate, but is true. Um, the rest of the league believes that the Eagles are going to move on from A.J. Brown, the vast majority. Obviously, there's always different. Now, the Eagles, I'm pretty confident that they're going to try to talk him into playing one more season. But I do think here's the complication, and I mentioned this, I think, when BLG was on Wednesday. Um, if there were no salary cap issues, and there wasn't such a problem from that perspective, I think the Eagles would move on from AJ Brown because they don't want to deal with what they've been dealing with for the past 2 seasons. And really, you can go back to 2023 at the end of that season. I think they're tired of it. They're tired of it. Um, but the salary cap stuff is real. And if you trade AJ Brown, there's significant repercussions to that. Either if you post June 1st it or not, you're going to lose significant cap space this year if you don't post June 1st it. And you can't do some of the other things you probably want to do. So that's the reason they're trying to work it out. So, but the foundation of it all is I think they want to move on, but it's just not the best time to move on. And the rest of the league thinks, oh, they're moving on. So that's where we are, and that's where we have been with AJ Brown.
John, people refer to Howie as a cap magician, which I think largely he is, but how hard is it to move this contract? I mean, if you look at the list of contracts on the Eagles, John, I mean, there's 52, players on the active roster, 53 on the active roster, and there's, I don't know, 90 maybe in the organization as a whole at any given time. AJ Brown's probably the second or third hardest contract to move. How manageable is that from Howie's perspective if it did reach the boiling point and they did decide to move AJ Brown?
Well, I mean, that's, they can move him if they want to move him. And that's the positive of Jeffrey Lurie. He's shown the ability to take on dead money, and he's not going to blink. A lot of owners would blink. So that's a positive that he knows he can work with that kind of rope. And, but it's not good from a cap standpoint. It doesn't help from a cap standpoint. And this is the rare when you sign guys early and you make that. Normally Howie gets a lot of credit for identifying players early, getting a little bit of a break on the contract. But if it doesn't go the way you perceive it to be, and in this case, it's not from a performance standpoint, it's more of just a player being unhappy standpoint. But still, it doesn't work. And if you have to get out of it early, well, you're taking a big hit, and all of a sudden doing things early doesn't look good. So it's always a gamble. And if they have to move on, if they have to trade him this year, it will impact them in a negative fashion from a cap standpoint. There's no getting around it. It's better if you designate it post June 1st, much better. But there's no getting around the significant dead money, $43 million. That's a big matzo ball, as Jerry Seinfeld would say. And
a big matzo ball, and you're not going to be a better football team. I mean,
and that's why that is the reason. Like, if this was the end of his contract and you didn't have these massive cap ramifications, I would say 99% he's out of here. And the only reason I'm at 50-50 and I toggle back and forth is because of the massive cap realities. And the Eagles have more things to fix. So they need as much cap space as they can get because they have to fix some things as well.
Interesting.
And plus, you got to replace AJ Brown.
Yes, I mean, there's like basically nothing about this potential move that's good for the Eagles, but you're gonna have to make do. If the player makes it untenable, I guess that's where it would reach ultimately. So, John, you still at 52-48 there? That he'll be back? We're gone. Where's the scale today for Johnny Mac?
I think I'm dead even, 50-50. I think
oh wow,
50-50.
It's going to 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, like I said, if you think about it, and that's why, because I started thinking about it when I was writing about it, and I'm like, if the Eagles didn't have these other issues, would they want to trade him or not? And to me, that's 100% they'd want to trade him. And that sort of is shifting my thinking a little bit. And that's why the rest of the league thinks they're going to deal him. And we're going to see if they're right. But one thing about Howie, he's not giving them away. So, I mean, that's another part of it. You have to get significant value in return. And that could be difficult as well because of the timing of if you trade him after June 1st, well, you're not getting a draft pick this year. And teams don't have the same malleability from a budgeting standpoint at that stage of the calendar. So a lot of things factor into it that make it difficult to move them. But this is, again, we were talking about Carson Wentz. Well, I wasn't expecting to talk about Carson Wentz so much today, but it's a similar situation in that, if a player, even a high profile player, wants out that badly, it's better to move them than have that unhappiness in the locker room. I think Mike Tomlin had a great quote. It was, we want volunteers, not hostages. I think every NFL team should operate with that mentality. In other words, if somebody doesn't want to be there, you don't want them there because it's going. And that's your point. I know you brought up the Kelce stuff. That's what Kelce was trying to say.
Yeah.
It's like, if somebody's unhappy, it's like a bad energy.
It brings the whole thing down.
Yeah.
Rising tide lifts all boats, and I guess you could say the opposite of that would be you're going to lower the boat.
Yeah, so I think that's sort of the framework of what Tomlin was saying and I think that's the best phrasing of it I've heard. You don't want hostages, you want volunteers.
It's a good way to look at it, John. This might be an extreme circumstance, but I'm bringing it up for a reason, and you tell me how unrealistic or unrealistic it is. I think there's definitely a world where the Eagles don't get back what they want for AJ, and they'll try and hold him because they got to deal with the cap hit. They got to deal with the dead cap. They got to deal with not being as good of a football team. They got to deal with trying to replace him. There's a lot of shit that comes with that. Is there a world where the Eagles try and keep AJ because they don't get what they want or whatever, and AJ would sit out or create a whole charade at the start of the season? Is that, in your eyes, is that possible? You have seen that in the past with certain players who maybe want a new contract or whatever. I don't think that's possible with AJ. I never saw it like that, but do you think that could be something we're talking about later in the offseason here, or maybe closer to training camp, if the Eagles don't want to move him? Could you see something like that happening?
Yeah, I don't think so. You don't see it very much at all in the modern NFL because they changed the CBA and you get significant fines. And back in the old days, you'd get significant fines and then you'd waive them. And they say, all right, these coming in, you waive them all. You're not allowed to waive them anymore.
Right.
They actually bargain that in. So that's the reason why you don't see nearly as many holdouts. Now, there's a couple. You can soft hold out, you can hold in. There's more hold ins where guys show up and they don't practice and they, claim my ankle hurts or whatever. There's a lot of that. Not a lot, but some. But yeah, the old school holdout, there's no real advantage to it from the player standpoint. I can't imagine it getting to the point the thing about AJ, which also to what Kelce said, he's still well liked. Everybody likes him in the building. Like it's not, oh, this guy's a pain in the ass. This guy's, it's weird. It's almost weird that you could create that much controversy and still be so universally well liked. So I don't see that being, of all the things that could happen, I think that would be the least likely.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Just wanted to bring it up in case it did reach that point, and we have some thoughts on it here on the record. I want to thank everybody for being here. A good first 50 minutes of the show. John, it's holding strong the phone connection right now for those just checking in. John had I get the text at about 7. I don't know what you texted me, 7:40. Zander, the Xfinity has collapsed. It is no longer with us for the day. I'll be joining you by phone this morning. So we appreciate you for doing it, Johnny Mac, and it's holding strong right now. I want to thank everybody for being here. Hit the like button. Drop your comments down below. Any super chats will go to the top. We appreciate all you guys for being here. John, next segment, segment 3 here that I want to talk about is kind of a continuation of the AJ stuff. I don't want to spend as much time in this as we just did the Fowler thing, but you brought it up. Jason Kelce yesterday spoke about the perceived lack of effort from A.J. Brown. I did think it was irrelevant post by Jason, and then it blows up, and then he has to put out the whole clarification.
Poor Jason, man. Welcome to the media, my friend.
Yeah,
Welcome to the media.
So he basically said he's just unfortunately a player who allows his internal frustrations to manifest into his play, and it makes his play worse. It makes him play worse. It makes the offense worse. I don't think Jason's breaking any news there. I mean, A.J. Brown clearly didn't play as well last year, whether you think he declined as a player or whether you think he was not focused because of his problems with the offense. I think it was the latter, but you can think what you want. So Jason Kelce had to clarify it, John, on X. Like he just said, welcome to the media, Jason. And he puts, it seems people are taking this as a dig on AJ, which wasn't really the intent of their response. It was apparent that AJ was frustrated, and it's apparent that AJ lets that affect his play at times. That's frustrating to watch as fans and people on the outside. But it's more important that his teammates and coaches, for all of this external frustration, still love and only say positive things about AJ. That probably means that his teammates understand where he's coming from and that's what really matters. Blah, 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 basically. A big clarification from Jason Kelce. Your thoughts on that comment from Jason Kelce on AJ Brown?
Well, the first, and Jason doesn't need any advice from me, but I would tell him, look, man, I mean, people are going to ignore the context of what you say. It's just, it's a battle you can't win. The other day, how much have I talked? I'll use this example, Zander. How much have I talked to you about what the Eagles did in the past and Kellen Moore? And I just said it again earlier in this show with, we have to see if Nick Sirianni's managing Jeffrey Lurie. I won't use manipulating and doing all these things in the offseason. He's going to go back to what he's always done, which is to win the game. Now, somebody left out the second part of that and said, "Oh, you said Nick's going to just change and go back." They completely missed the context of it, but it's fine. You can't fight that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with what Jason Kelce said. I think it was exactly right from a player's perspective.
I think he was 100% right. Yeah,
he was 1,000% right. I'm making up numbers. He was completely right. And then he reverted back because a lot of people took it as a dig on AJ Brown, and then he's got to, So my recommendation to him is ignore the people who ignore your context. You're not going to win them over. I mean, they're not listening anyway. So that, from that standpoint, I think the original quotes, which was, he's just unfortunately a player who allows his internal frustrations to manifest into his play. Anybody deny that? It's obvious. And he makes him play worse, which he did this season. Makes the offense worse, which he did, which it was this season. So it was completely right. We've talked about it. I don't know how many times. AJ's frustrated, and it's affecting his play. That's fair. It's fair. There's nothing wrong with what he said.
No, I agree. Nothing wrong with what he said. Interesting, though, from Jason Kelce. And then, John, the last piece here, and then I got a better topic for you here for hour number 2. This drama stuff, I want to put it behind us, but I do got to bring it up. Emmanuel Acho brought up yesterday, like, I don't know, this came off like I don't want to rip Emmanuel Acho because I actually kind of like Emmanuel Acho. I just think he does a good job at being in the media, which I get. Some people don't like how media people are and they try and get clicks, but I think for what it's worth, he does a good job at doing that. He talked about he was out in Santa Clara for the Super Bowl, and he was at the same Super Bowl event that Jalen Hurts was at, and Jalen was sitting in the corner not talking to anybody or something, and he's wearing sunglasses and he's on his phone. I don't know, John. To me, it came off like a jealous ex or something. Like I don't know. It just sounded weird when he said it.
To go back to look, Acho does a nice film job, but yeah, he's a click. He's a click guy. I mean, he's a click guy versus Fowler or Diana Rossini, who are doing legitimate sourcing, and he's a click guy. And that stuff. I don't care. It just is.
Well,
and you're right.
to bring it up to you wasn't because I wanted to gossip about it or anything. You brought up the aloof comment earlier in the year, and if Acho is right and not making up shit, maybe this would put a feather in the aloof cap. Maybe
He is aloof, and he or people perceive him to be aloof. And by the way, I think he made a concerted effort to be better at that this season. Ironically, because they had more success when he was really aloof versus when he was trying to be less aloof. They didn't have as much success. So I think that tells you what it matters, which is nothing. But yeah, it is, and I'm glad you used that word. That's what it is. It's gossip, and it's not really relevance. It's like, there's a big story with Casey Wasserman. I don't know, former NFL agent. I don't know if people have seen it. It's in the Epstein files. Ultimately, so anybody who's in the Epstein files, it could be significant. It could be insignificant. But and Casey's still like he's chairman of the Los Angeles Olympic Committee, so he's still got some big time roles in some of the agency, and some of his clients are leaving. And basically, his impact was in him emailing about an adult woman, not an underage woman, about untoward things. Let's be honest. But I mean, that's his personal life. I don't give a shit. As long as he's not breaking a law, that's gossip. That's gossip. That's not a story. That's gossip. And that's on a higher level. That's the only reason I went down that road. Two consenting adults, even if they're cheating on their spouses or vice versa, it happens. I'm not condoning it, but it's not a crime. And that's gossip. That kind of stuff is gossip. That's why I don't like to talk about it that much, other than to say, yeah, certain guys think he's aloof. But they probably think that of most quarterbacks, because quarterbacks are, put on a pedestal. Good quarterbacks. And, there is some jealousy to that, I would say, in all cities that have good quarterbacks, because they're going to get a lot of hype and a lot of attention and a lot of endorsements and all that kind of stuff.
Agreed. Good response, Johnny Mac. I viewed it similarly as you there. Just wanted to bring that up. All right, everybody. Good segment there on the gossip segment with Kelce and with Emmanuel Acho. I thought Kelce didn't say anything wrong. As much as I like AJ, I happen to agree with Kelce. And I thought the Acho thing came off a little odd for him. I didn't think that was a good look. But I digress. John, an interesting topic I wanted to bring up to you. I don't know how much longer or if your phone is in good shape or what. I want to talk about this offense, and I know it's something that pinch me if you've heard that before, right? This West Coast this perceived change of the offense, John, for our next segment is what I want to talk about. And you're bringing Mannion and Grizzard and Mahaffey and all these, younger coaches with the potential of the new change coming to the Eagles offense. And somebody brought up this to me yesterday on a super chat, and I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to get your thought on it. Because we've been wondering, what level of West Coast are they going to run? Is it just going to be, they're going to try and fit a square peg in a round hole here? Or is it going to be a modified version? Are they going to try and build it around their players? And somebody brought this up to me. The Doug Peterson hybrid West Coast offense, if anybody remembers when Doug was hired, and he talked about the hybrid West Coast approach. He had some RPOs heavy in there. He had 12 and 13 personnel in there. It was a timing-based system, but it was also quarterback-friendly, and it was also built, to accentuate the talents of your players. John, maybe it sounds a little bit like that's what Sean Mannion and co. need to do with the Eagles. Is that a fair way to look at maybe this is what the Eagles are going to try and do with their version of the West Coast?
Well, I hope so. I said that's what people should be rooting for. I think you
Yeah.
should be very upset. I mean, that's I appreciate the super chatter, and I know this is part of Nick Sirianni's problem as a head coach. I do this show every day basically, and people hear my voice and probably stop listening at some point because I say the same things. The burden of leadership is repetition. Now, I'm not leading, but um, the hammer at home. I how many times have I said good coaching is taking advantage of what you have? Now, don't hire a scheme because eventually you're going to have to move off that scheme. And good coaches. And Doug was a good coach here. Yeah, you really want to go. They completely changed late in the season when Carson Wentz got hurt, and Nick Foles had to come in. And again, revisionist history. People forget how bad he was in the regular season, and to the point where Doug said, and he tasked John D. Filippo with that job mainly. It's like, all right, we gotta build this thing around Nick Foles. We got to do what he's comfortable with. One of the things is RPOs, not and really more zone reads in the case of Nick Foles because you don't have the running option factored in, but same mechanics, um, and a lot of quick stuff and a lot of um, and obviously the rest is history. And they basically remade the whole offense, um, and it worked. And John got a lot of credit. Unfortunately, he got the offensive coordinator job with Minnesota. He didn't last the season because Mike Zimmer was out there and wanted him to hand the ball off all the time, and John was not happy, and he was not happy. But anyway, yeah, I mean that's the definition of every good coach, and you saw it this year with Sean McVay. Completely changed because he had to, and I say, there's so many, and I get it because fans are steered that way because they get. I'm on Twitter, I see it all, X.com. Sorry, Elon. Um, you're inundated with this is what they're going to do. This is what they're going to do. And I'm like, if this is what they're going to do with Sean Mannion sucks because as the Larry Karras quote to Nick Sirianni, you don't even know who your players are going to be. Shut up about what you're going to do. You got to build the offense around the personnel you have. Now, again, you can have those foundational concepts, and you should have those foundational concepts of what you want to run in a perfect situation. And you always have that in the back of your mind. If I can get this, this is where I want to be. And this is my belief system. There's nothing wrong with having that. But if you have that belief system and you're going to play it by hook or by crook, no matter who you have, you're a bad football coach. You are a bad football coach. And I'm glad it resonated with somebody else, with Doug, because it's a cliche for a reason, man. If you're hiring a scheme, you're doing it wrong.
Cyclical life we live, circular life. We're back. The Doug Peterson West Coast approach could be back, folks, which I like. Good thing there. John, one of the things that sticks out, though, when you think about that Doug Peterson hybrid approach that he had, and obviously had great success with it. I know it didn't end the way some wanted it to end, but he did have great success with it. And obviously, this will change based on the personnel in the Eagles, just like you just laid out. When you're a good coach, you adapt to who you have personnel-wise. But Doug used a lot of 12 and 13 personnel, to create the mismatches and to do different things, multiple tight end sets. John, the Eagles better get some tight ends, dude. I don't know if it's going to be Dallas Goedert or somebody else, but they need not one tight end. They need multiple tight ends, I think.
Yeah, they probably are going to add multiple tight ends at some point, but that's the point. Yeah, I mean, obviously you need a certain number to play the game. But I mean, if you have good tight ends, you're going to utilize them. I mean, Doug had Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert came the year after the Super Bowl. Um, you know, think about that level for a short period when they were together. You're going to utilize it more versus if you have a weak group at the tight end. And that's kind of the whole point. Okay. Well, Sean McVay had a weak group, at least by his standards, at wide receiver depth wise. Obviously, we're not talking at the top, but depth wise, he had a weaker group and he had a stronger tight end group than he ever had before. So he utilized the tight ends more. I mean, to me, it's so simple. And so many people don't recognize it. It's like, you don't need, because Doug Peterson used a lot of two tight ends. You don't need two tight ends to run with that. Doug would have run something different if his wide receivers stunk for the most part.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
That's I mean, and maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't explain it well. You tell me, Zander.
No,
I think people look at it backward. They're looking at it completely backward of what it is. It's not, oh, you need to get these tight ends. It's you need to take advantage of the good players you get, and you're at the mercy of the free agent market and the mercy of the draft and how the draft board falls. Again, when you're picking 23rd like the Eagles are, I guarantee you they're not getting who they want at 23 in a best case world. Now they'll say it, they got them. Unless you're number one, you're probably not getting the guy you wanted in the NFL draft. Certain exceptions, obviously. This year, I think you're going to have a quarterback who's probably not worthy of going number one, and maybe number two gets the player they want. But you get the point. Very few people get, actually, even when it works out like a gangbusters like Quinyon Mitchell a couple years ago. Well, they really wanted the offensive lineman that went to Pittsburgh, but he went 2 spots earlier. So yeah, I mean, it's not about getting 2 tight ends to be successful like Doug was. It's about getting good players. Maybe they get a receiver. Like I said, that's the deepest position. There's a crap load of receivers. Maybe they keep A.J. Brown and get another receiver. And all of a sudden, Sean Mannion's cooking with gas with 3 big-time receivers.
Yeah, right. I don't know about that, John, but maybe, man, maybe.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's the forward way to think about it rather than, oh, this is what Doug did in 2018, so this is how you have to build. I mean, that's backward.
Doug, do you want to be the quarterback's coach, Doug? Come on into Philly. Listen to this, John. This sounds like this is my expectation of what the Eagles are going to do this year, or close to it. I was reading this last night about Doug after this comment, and I'm like, let me go do some research on that. Doug Peterson blends the traditional West Coast focus on short passing and pacing with the throw deep mentality that was often used by Frank Reich, allowing for a good mix of ball control and explosive plays. I'm like, boy, I think that's what they're going to do this year.
Well, the Eagles have always been hyper-focused on explosive plays.
That's what I mean. I don't think they're going to get rid of that.
No. I mean, that's a common theme in the NFL. They're not like unique. I mean, the 2 stats that NFL teams look at the most are turnovers and explosive play rate. And if you win them both, you generally win the game. So that's built into it. The question is, and you can get them. I mean, what was so unique about 2024 is how many explosive plays they got in the running game, which generally doesn't happen that much. And that's why probably it wasn't sustainable, because you can't get that many explosive plays in the running game in a normal season. And I have to sort of better, I think, navigate the risk aversion to get more explosive plays, and occasionally, live with the occasional interception, maybe. and just be more dynamic and more, just put more pressure on the defenses. But I saw an interesting, I think it was Nate Tice who does a good job with film stuff. The biggest, and I agreed after I read it, I agreed with it, and I was like, the biggest, because offenses as a whole, I think, obviously we're an Eagles show, so we're Eagles centric, but I said pretty clearly, there were worse offenses than the Philadelphia Eagles, a lot worse offenses than the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, offense has become a problem in this league to the point where I think they're going to start changing rules again to help the offense, unfortunately. But we'll see how that part of it shakes out. But the biggest problem is pass protection. It's just, especially in third and longs, where you got all these, and you saw it in Seattle. You got all these chaos like defensive coordinators now who follow in the mold of Brian Flores, and you saw what Seattle did with the Witherspoon blitzes in the Super Bowl. And these teams just don't adjust and can't pass protect and can't handle the pressure, and that turns into ugly, ugly offense. Not only ineffective, but ugly looking aesthetically. And I think that's what's going on in a lot of the league. And Nate said there's probably like 4 or 5 guys in the world who can adjust protections the right way to stop these things. And until they fix that, you're going to have some ugly offense in this league.
No doubt about it, John. Good stuff there. Good segment on the potential for the Doug Peterson looking very, I don't want to dub at that, but, Doug, I thought, did do a good job at having a hybrid approach. And I do think if Sean Mannion, John, like you say, if he's a good coach, then he will have a similar approach that is tailored to the skill set of the players on the Eagles. And we will see what the players on the Eagles look like there. Good segment. John, next segment, speaking of the players on the Eagles, Dallas Goedert and his replacement, John, or replacements, could be plural, depending on what way the Eagles go, because I think Calcaterra is done as well. John, any names come to mind? I was reading from our buddy Glenn Irby, who just put some names together of some names who are out there, just not necessarily tied to the Eagles, but David Njoku from the Browns, Kyle Pitts from the Falcons. I don't think that's likely. Speaking of the word likely, Isaiah Likely from the Ravens, Cade Otton from the Buccaneers, Charlie Kohler from the Ravens, and then maybe a potential draft pick or two, or we'll see how that goes. When you look at the Eagles' tight end position and the tight end, I guess, lack of players on the roster right now, what's the most probable approach you see him taking? And then is there any names out there that you think are a good fit for this football team?
Well, I do think obviously they have to add multiple bodies. My assumption is they're going to lose Dallas Goedert. He's going to be 32. I can't imagine that coming off the season he had, that somebody's not going to give him 2 years at significant money, somewhat significant money. Took a $4 million pay cut last season to come back, so I think, there's a little bit, I wouldn't say anger, but there's a little bit of disappointment from Dallas's side that he was forced to do that. So, I don't think he's going to be in the mood to give the Eagles a deal, a hometown discounts. So then you think about, well, you need to me, the backups, I don't want to say they don't matter. You got to get better, but I don't think there is relevance as the top tier. You need a centerpiece, similar to what I said about the pass rush last year. You need a centerpiece, and then everything will probably fit into place, at least at an acceptable level. So how do you replace him as a centerpiece? Well, if you don't want to pay Dallas Goedert $14 million, you're not going to pay $14 million for Kyle Pitts, and he's going to make more than that.
Yeah.
Way more than that.
I don't think Pitts is the guy, John. I don't think that's a great fit.
No, I don't think. Well, he would be the guy if he's a good player, but not consistent enough.
He doesn't block though, John. I guess maybe with the change on offense, they might not need that.
No, but that's most guys. There's very few Kittles and
who can do everything. Very few.
Yeah, very very few. So most teams piecemeal it, and they got to get better blocking tight ends as well. But as far as Njoku made $14 million, and maybe more. So I don't. He's 30, but he's good enough to where people are going to give him big money. So I don't see that. Tyler Higbee's a guy that interests me. He's had some injuries, but he's really good, really effective. One of those Rams tight ends. He's a free agent or set to be a free agent. He would interest me. And then the trade market, people have been talking about Michael Mayer. I do think there is forever. I do think there's some untapped potential there. And there's a guy who could do both. Now, I'm not saying he could turn into George Kittle, but he's a good blocker and he's a capable receiver. So that's a guy I would target. But I keep saying I don't know why Las Vegas would want to trade him. I had the assumption, well, they have Brock Bowers. Well, you need more than one tight end, and keep him on his rookie deal as long as he can keep him. Has always been my perspective. But you can go that route. And obviously the draft is very deep at tight end. So there's only one guy in the first round equation. And I don't think the Eagles would go there, and that's Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon. But there are a bunch of guys, day 2 or day 3. Kid from Ohio State, Max Clary. Eli Stowers is very good from Vandy. Jack Endries from Texas. I'm just reading. These are all projected to be second or third round picks. Michael Trigg from Baylor. Justin Jolly from North Carolina State. Even Sam Roush could potentially get in there from Stanford. That's a lot of bodies that you can get. You should be able to get one of them if you want to get one of them. And right there, that could be your answer if you get the right one in the draft. Remember, they got Dallas Goedert in the second round. They didn't get him in the first round. So to me, the draft is big when it comes to tight end. They're certainly going to take a tight end at some point. They have more needs than they typically do. We're talking about quarterback earlier in the show in day 2. You can't take everybody in day 2, but
right. And John, you hear it mocked every single position is going day 2, brother. They're taking a wide receiver, a tight end, a running back, an offensive lineman. They're taking everybody day 2, dude.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can only obviously take the number of picks you have, so you can't fix every position. So a lot of it depends. And again, when we talk about a fruitless exercise, even more fruitless, every single mock draft in the history of mankind is a fruitless exercise, and they're so popular, and they're just a waste of time, a waste of complete time. But even from that standpoint,
John, to learn more about the players, but I do agree that they're nowhere close to what's going to actually happen.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant. It's fine if you want to use it as a learning tool, but that's what I'm talking. They're a fruitless exercise. That's the term I use, but even more so before free agency. Like, think about how useless a mock draft, if you're using it not from what you're saying, a learning standpoint, but if you're using it to say, oh, the Eagles might take this guy. Think about how useless it is before free agency. And you don't know. What if they trade A.J. Brown? Well, all of a sudden, wide receiver is up, way up. What if they don't re-sign Jalen Phillips? Well, all of a sudden, edge defender is way up. So, so much is clear. They get a little bit more, I won't say, still it's you're just blind guessing, but they get a little bit more import, at least, if there's savvy, intelligent football people doing them that says, oh, they signed Jalen Phillips to a $20 million deal, so they're not drafting an edge defender. They signed or they traded for Michael Mayer. Well, they're not going to take a tight end now in the second round. That kind of thing. And so much of it depends on what happens in free agency. But the Eagles do have 4 picks in the first 100. So 4 picks in the first 2 days. Right now, 23, 54, 68, 98. So, that's 4 positions you can address. So they do have some ammunition.
John, what do you know about the when it comes to the tight end sticking there? For the Dallas Goedert situation, I agree with you. I don't think he's coming back, but the way Howie does contracts, I saw someone in the chat bring this up to me. Thank you. I think it was Drees who brought it up to me. Jeff Krause. Jeff, thanks. $20 million dead cap hit associated with Dallas Goedert. Is there a small chance that restructuring and maybe signing him actually makes more sense for the Eagles for this year when they're in a little bit of a constricted cap moment? Is that a thought process, or do you view that as cost of doing business, nothing you can do about it? The player's probably out the door.
Oh, the player's probably out the door. Again, whoever asked the comment, I apologize. I forget the name. It's not up there. But, if anybody in their personal life, no matter what their job is, says, well, you can come back, but you're going to take a very, very significant pay cut. Do you want to come back the next year if you got another opportunity? I mean, you force somebody to take a $4 million, and by force I don't mean legitimately, because Dallas could have said no and went somewhere else, which indicated maybe the market wasn't as good as he thought it was going to be. But 2, he was under contract. He wasn't a free agent. This time he's a free agent. He's a free agent, unrestricted free agent, coming off a year where the Eagles gave him a $4 million pay cut. So if I'm Dallas Goedert and I'm Dallas Goedert's agent, I say, well, this starts at 2 years, because you got to be realistic, and he's going to be 32. This starts at 2 years, and first thing is we want that $4 million back. So whatever you're thinking of, 2 years, $20 million, 2 years, turn that into 224, turn that into 228. That to me, can anything happen? Can Howie fit it? Could you extend it and kick the voidable years down another 2 years? Sure, anything's possible. But to me, the player is not going to accept any of that, because you fucked him over last year. $4 million, Zander. $4 million. I'm surprised. I'm surprised he played last season, to be honest. But he did, and I think this time he's not bending over backward for the Philadelphia Eagles.
We'll see what ends up happening with that. John, any of the names I mentioned on tight end, did any of them stick out to you? I think I mentioned Kate Otten. I mentioned there's a couple others on there that I'll name. I know you talked about Pitts. I don't think Pitts is coming here. He's going to get big money. Njoku maybe. Isaiah likely. Kate Otten does have ties to Josh Grizzard. Obviously, he was with the Bucs. Any of those ring a bell, or not ring a bell? Obviously, you know who they are, but any of those.
Well, I think Njoku is still going to be too expensive. He's 30, but he's got the big reputation, big skill set. I think he's going to get paid. I mentioned Higbee. Higbee interests me. Keaton, nah. I would prefer to go for if he's and people have been talking about him for so long. Again, Michael Mayer I mentioned on the trade market. Um, but no, I mean, and then the Eagles might bring back a Grant Calcaterra or Colin Granson to be the third tight end. So I think and that you start talking about 1 year vet minimum deals at that point. So the one guy who intrigues me a little bit is Higbee, but he probably doesn't intrigue the Eagles because of his injury history, and he's older than Dallas Goedert, so probably doesn't intrigue them. I just think he's a good player. Pitts, as you mentioned, perfect age, 26. He's gonna cash in big time, and he's phenomenal talent. So I don't think he's relevant. And then it's a bunch of other than Njoku and Goddard, it's a bunch of Pitts stands alone, and then it's a bunch of 1 year guys, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you.
On the free agency market.
I agree with you. Good stuff there. Good segment on tight end. We'll see what ends up happening with Dallas Goedert and the Eagles tight end situation. I do think that's one of the better ones to keep in mind here. John, we have about 28 minutes left on the show today. I want to hit you with some rapid fire, all right? Just give me a couple thoughts on a name. I'll give you a name. All the names will come from the Eagles free agent list. And I will start with the first name that's actually not a free agent, I don't believe, but I do think somebody worth mentioning as coming back or going. You just give me a rapid fire thought when I say the name, either coming back, going, and just this is obviously your opinion, your thought process on why. You can give a couple thoughts on each if you feel the need to. Some of them might not warrant a couple thoughts. First one I'm going to start with, not technically a free agent, Jake Elliott.
He will be back, obviously, but I think you need to add competition at the bare minimum. So, I mean, they need to add somebody in training camp to push them. And I've talked all the way back to Dave Phipp days and say, well, because the Eagles haven't often bring in competition at the kicker or even punter position when they should have with Aaron Cepas, and they say, well, these guys are competing with other guys. They know the Eagles are looking at other guys who are in other camps and all that. But they need somebody in camp pushing Jake Elliott. I mean, and hopefully you don't have to draft a kicker. Some teams do. It's rare. Will Reichert worked out well from Alabama, another one of your guys. I mean, he's a all-pro kicker. I think he was a 6th-round pick. And you can get undrafted guys, high-level kickers. So Jake has struggled over the past 2 years mightily, and with all the influx of these young kickers kicking these monster field goals, I mean, you need to get better.
Next one, Braden Mann.
Yeah, I think Braden Mann will be back easily. Had a really good season. Not the best punter. I think people overrate. You saw Michael Dixon in the suit. That's the best punter. That dude's unbelievable. But yeah, very good year, very good player. And people don't value punting. You're punting less than ever, mainly because people are so aggressive and go for it on 4th downs. But you do need a good punter when you need that punt, and you're backed up. And Braden was easily, I would say, top 5, maybe top 10 in the NFL. So, yeah, they'll bring him back.
Grant Calcaterra.
I don't think he'll be back. I do think one of the guys will be back, and it might be Grant, it might be Colin Granson, as I mentioned in the previous segment. But I don't think, tight end 2 especially. It's like Yeah, you prefer to have a George Kittle can do things both, but most teams piecemeal it, and you want a threat as receiver, so you're looking for that number one, but then you also need the blocking aspect of it. So most teams, the tight end one is the big receiver type, and the tight end two is the blocker. And I think that's how the Eagles should go about it. Um, and Grant's strength is not blocking, so I think I would move on in that situation.
Agreed there. John, next player is Brandon Graham.
It's not gonna. I don't think the Eagles should bring him back. I just don't. I mean, look, the guy is Mr. Eagle. I say it all the time for the people that think I'm being a hater. I mean, my favorite player ever to cover, phenomenal guy, everything about. But this is a young man's game,
Yeah.
and you just, you already did you can't do it again. You did the great retirement with the two Lombardi trophies and the whole 9 yards, and then you force him back. But you got to be in a better position with your younger players. I wouldn't go down that route again with Brandon Graham.
I agree. Reed Blankenship.
Yeah, I'm bringing him back because I think it'll be easier than I thought because he had a bad season. I think in a weird way it helps. I don't think he's going to make as much money as maybe he expected, or he changed agents to get a big money deal. I don't think that's going to be there for him. And Vic likes him, and Vic wants him. So as long as Vic's here, and if you can get him at a decent price, and I think they will, I think maybe more than all of the free agents, he's probably the most likely to be back.
Next one, John, is Jahan Dotson.
Out of here. Yeah, out of here. I mean, I don't think he wants to be back now, but again, there's shift. Can you talk him into? I think Jahan Dotson can play a little bit. So number one, that's where I'm coming from. I know not many people believe that because they haven't seen it.
I believe it.
Now, can they talk him into the same thing you're talking at much lower level, but same thing you're trying to talk AJ Brown into and say, look, we're changing, you're going to be more involved, I guess. But I think somewhere will give him a better opportunity, a better clear-cut opportunity. Like it won't be, this is what we're planning to do. It will be with a more team that has consistently done it, and it will be a clear-cut, better opportunity to prove himself, because he's going to have to sign a 1-year prove it deal and get right back to free agency and hopefully prove that he can, still deserves multiple years and can be a contributor. So I think he'll be looking to go elsewhere.
I agree. John, Adoree Jackson is the next player.
Yeah, I think Adoree did a good job last year. I really do, after he settled down. But I do think, you want to get younger and you want to get better. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if you can't, like we talked about, all right, if you're going to need an edge defender, a wide receiver, an offensive lineman, you can't get everybody. And cornerback two's in that equation as well. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if you weren't able to get somebody to bring him back, because he's a professional. He knows how to play. But right now, I would certainly think that's not plan A. That would be, if nothing works out, if you don't get an upgrade in free agency, if you don't get an upgrade in the draft, then maybe you circle back and bring him back. But right now, I would say no, he won't be back.
John, next player is relevant, especially with the looming decision, which we think we have clarity on, of Lane Johnson. Fred Johnson.
No, I think it's the same as I don't think Fred will be back. I think he wants the opportunity to be a full-time starter. Now, he wanted that opportunity last year and never got it, so who knows?
Well, he did leave, remember. The Eagles had a trade for him back.
Yeah, but from the standpoint of plus, again, the Eagles are shifting gears. No more Stoutland, no more Um, a lot of wide zone stretch stuff perceived to be where they're going. That probably doesn't fit the 6'7", 360-pound guy. So, I don't think Fred will be back.
Me neither. Good stuff there, John. Next one here, Brett Toth.
Yeah, Brett's interesting because Stout is gone. I mean, he was a Stout guy, but he played well, man. I try to bring him back because he is valuable and has proven himself as an interior backup that can play all three positions, which is what you want on game day. Game day interior backup's got to be able to play center, left guard, right guard, and he can do that. It'll be pretty cost effective. And I think also he moves well enough that he could project to be as good in this change as he was in the previous system. So I think he's not scheme dependent. I'd bring him back, but obviously you're not breaking it. I think that depends on the market. If you can get him back at a 1-year veteran minimum deal, I'd bring him back. But I don't know if you can do that the way he played last year.
Couple rapid fires here that I think are a little easier. Not much discussion, but we'll see what you say. Azeez Ojulari.
No.
Gone. Agreed.
Where were all those people during the Temu offseason? Oh, he's going to be great.
That's why I prefaced that name with I didn't want people to think I was, All right, next, Joshua Uche.
No, Josh played well, man. When he played, and then kind of got benched and understandably. I mean, you bring Brandon Graham back, you trade for Jalen Phillips, and you get Nolan Smith back from injury, and there was just no spot for him. But he actually did well with his playing time early in the season, and I think he was. I know he's very frustrated that opportunity was taken away from him. But that's the life. I mean, it's almost like you sign for 1 year, a little bit over the veteran minimum, and people don't expect you to be playing as well as he did, and they assume it won't continue, and they go in a different direction. So it wasn't fair to Josh Uche, but he won't be back.
Next one is Ogbo Okoronkwo, or however you say his name. It's a tough one to say. Obo, or whatever it is. John, back? No back? I don't think so.
No, he's not going to be back. He got hurt. He tore his pec, I believe. Might have been a triceps. I think it was a pec. And he missed most of the season. Yeah, he was kind of a surprise late addition. It was going to be, part of the rotation. But he got hurt, and he won't be back.
Next one, John, Matt Pryor.
No, will not be back. I'm a little disappointed. There's a guy, because he played so well in Chicago in 2024. And he got, because of all the injuries, he got a couple opportunities to play, and he just didn't play well. So, no, I don't expect Matt Pryor back.
Next player, John, A.J. Dillon.
No. It's amazing. I'm amazed. I think we're all amazed that AJ made it through the entire season. I think that's one of those deals like Nick Gates the year before. I think Howie kind of promised him, you're going to be here for the whole year. Just wasn't relevant or part of anything. Did buy the positivity bunny, though. That's what he's most famous for.
Yeah.
Eagles land.
Yeah, good one, AJ. Thanks for your contribution to the team and the positivity bunny. Okay. Marcus Epps, John, is the next name.
Yeah, did a nice job, when forced in action after Drew Makuba got hurt. But, at his age, his injury history, I don't think he'll be back. But again, he's a guy in the category. I put him more in the Adoree Jackson. Maybe if you don't get an upgrade, then you circle back later in the summer and bring him back. So I think there's a slight chance, but I certainly think they'd want to get a little bit younger and try to get an upgrade. And if not, maybe they bring him back later in the summer.
Okay, winding down the list here. I know we went rogue here, but I did want to address every name on the list. Ben Van Sumeren, who's actually a restricted free agent, so he's the one restricted guy on the list.
Yeah, well, he will be unrestricted. NFL teams rarely tender restricted free agents because those tenders have gotten so expensive. So he'll be a free agent, and there's a chance he could come back on a cheaper deal. But I do think it's notable that the Eagles signed a fullback in the futures market, Carson Steele, who did some work in Kansas City. Yeah, it's just difficult because Ben was going to be a big part of the plan this year, and his back-to-back seasons, torn ACL, then torn patellar. That's tough to overcome. Great dude. Wish he'd be back. But I don't think ultimately he will be.
John, last one here. Sam Howell, backup a third-string quarterback this year.
Yeah, I think Sam is out.
He'll 25 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sam will want a backup job somewhere, and he'll get a backup job because he's got a lot of experience playing. He's a starter at one point. So, here was the third string guy, and that would continue. So I don't think he has any interest in returning because I do think he'll get an opportunity somewhere to be a backup.
Good stuff there, John. And that's the list, everybody. You guys will notice if you're listening to the segment after the fact and you didn't watch the live show today. All right, I left off the four big names: Dallas Goedert, Reed Blankenship, Jalen Phillips, and Nakobe Dean. Those are the big four, and all the others I think are kind of the fill-ins, but I did want to run through all the fill-ins. I think sometimes they get neglected, and we pride ourselves on Birds 365 to cover it all, John, so I did want to get to them. Happy we were able to do that. I don't know how many yeses I heard, John. I don't know. We rattled through like 20 players. I don't think I heard one yes, John. I think they're all gone, man.
There were a couple, Jake competition. I got to go through. Dory and Marcus are the circle back June guys. If you don't get upgrades, maybe you circle back. But yeah, most of them were the Temu guys who didn't perform. So, they're not going to be.
Reed, by the way, I forgot that. I did bring up Reed by accident, but I did bring him up.
Yeah, and Reed, I think, will be back.
Yeah.
Of that big four, I think Reed is the most likely to return.
And let's just do it for those who aren't listening to the live show and didn't hear all the segments and who might be listening after the fact, John. Goddard, rapid answer?
No, will not be back.
Reed, you just said it, but go ahead one more time.
He will be back, I believe.
Jalen Phillips?
I believe he will be back. I think that's who the Eagles target. I think they find a way to get it done.
And Nakobe Dean.
Nakobe, yeah, I mean, he wants to be back. Vic wants him back. Everybody loves him. I just don't see the path. I just don't see how you bring him back. You drafted Jahad Campbell. The ceiling is immense on that particular player. I think people forget how well he was playing the first 6-7 weeks before Nakobe came back. He was in the Defensive Rookie of the Year conversation. That's how well he was playing. You don't sit that guy for another year. So to me, the only way you do it is you find meaningful roles for all three to where you can pay all three at significant salaries, which you do. Obviously with Zach, and you would be with Nakobe and Jod because he's a first-round pick. How do you play all three? I don't think you can play all three. If, as Vic has already said on the record, you're not playing three all-ball linebackers in the modern game. You just can't. You get destroyed. So one of them would have to drop down as an overhang player, and Jahad was given 150 snaps on the edge last year, and they weren't effective. So there was little evidence he could do it. Now, ironically, I think Zach Bond could do it. But if you take Zach Bond and you put him on the edge, you're taking away the havoc he creates at the second level. So I don't think you want to do that. Um, so I just don't see it. And by the way, the Eagles have pretty significant depth. Trotter played well in training camp last season, played well in the regular season when he got opportunities. Small Munden they like as well. So the only way Nakobe comes back is if the market is so concerned about his injury history. They say, we're not giving you 2 years. You got to prove it. And, he might want to sign a prove it deal more with Philadelphia and something he's familiar with than somewhere else. But that's really the only way I could see him coming back. And I can't believe after the way he played last season that somebody out there won't give him multiple years.
John, I have limited information, and my opinion doesn't mean much because I'm not the owner, and I never will be. And but if I was the owner of the team, John, and maybe I'm off base, and maybe I'm not thinking about it right, and sometimes you got to make business decisions. I would pay Nakobe Dean, and I wouldn't really think twice about it. I think he's one of those players that supersedes just what he does on the field. I think he's a great locker room guy. I think he's a great ambassador for the organization, for the city. I think he's a smart dude. He's one of those guys to me that the contract is worth more than just what he does on the football field. But I do understand, obviously, the complexity, and I'm not as based in reality as what reality actually is. So, but I would pay Nakobe, man. I'm a big fan of Nakobe Dean, John. I think he's a guy that you just don't want to leave the building. But I do get, where you bring in the complex nature of that and why that's a challenge.
Yeah, I think everybody's on board with you from a Nakobe Dean standpoint as far as what he means, to the team, to the organization. But that stuff is secondary to, the upside. And you're paying Zach Bond significant money. Jahad Campbell's a first-round pick, and again, I do think for whatever reason, people forget how well he played in the first 5-6 games. His ceiling is much higher than Nakobe's. Just is.
No doubt about it. Good stuff. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. It's 9:53. We'll let you run a little early. I can think of that phone, dude. You might need to put that thing down on the table for 30 minutes before you go on it.
Yeah.
That thing's probably set to turn on fire. John, your final thoughts here on a football. I thought we had some great segments today. Prevailed through the internet, as we always do, John. I thought we talked about some good stuff today. Your final thoughts on a football Friday, John. I mentioned it was week 4 of the offseason earlier. I think I was wrong, man. I think it's week 5 of the offseason we're wrapping up. I already got mixed up. It's crazy that we're already 5 weeks removed from the NFL season. Your final thoughts here on a football Friday.
My final thought is I'm surprised the phone held out. So
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. I can give a hat tip to, let's see, how can we rhyme? Smush Horizon.
I've been talking.
I give a positive to one and a negative to the other. There we go.
There you go, John.
You
good
can figure
show.
out which one's which.
Yeah, John. Good show, man. Enjoy your weekend, and I will catch you on Monday, brother. All right.
All right. Thanks all for hanging in.
All right, John. Thank you, man. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen, #1 Eagles beat reporter in all the land. Host of Birds 365, joining us right here on our Football Friday edition. I got the text from John at like 7:30. Zander, my internet just dropped. I'm going to have to join by phone. I don't know if it's going to come back on. It never came back on. All right, so good show today, man. I thought we talked about a lot of good, relevant things, okay, with Goddard and the replacement for tight end. We just rattled off in the last 25 minutes or so all of the free agents for the Philadelphia Eagles. Not a lot of yeses, and I think John is right on most of them. I thought the Doug Peterson look at the way he ran the hybrid West Coast, I think that's very relevant because I do not think that they're going to come in here and just run like this West Coast offense with this team. And I don't think that's a knock on anybody. You have players that have talents and have skill sets. The best thing you want to do is take those players and get the most out of them. I thought the look at the way Doug Peterson called the West Coast offense is a great look at potentially how they could do it. All right, so that's relevant. I thought the A.J. Brown stuff was, more of the same. The Jeremy Fowler report on the quarterback drafting I thought was pretty interesting. John, I don't want to say John downplayed it, but he just kind of said, yeah, this is kind of what people do. But I think there's a little bit of smoke there that's worth monitoring. And I thought the Emmanuel Acho stuff was, worth bringing up, but pretty stupid. I mean, somebody should, I don't know. Emmanuel does a good job. I'm not in the business of telling people what to do. I fucking hate when people tell me what to do. I'm not about to start telling people what to do, but I will react to it. Dude, you kind of sound petty. I don't know, bro. Like, the fuck you worried about how Jalen Hurts is conversing with people at a party at the Super Bowl? By the way, I saw somebody bring it up, and I meant to bring it up. I didn't mention it, I guess. There's always somebody that gets their panties in a bunch. Oh, my God, it's it. There wasn't a picture, too, of Jalen chilling with DeVonta, I think I saw Kayvon Thibodeau there, DeVonta's wife, a bunch of other people. So I think it was fake news. I think it was a bunch of Achos. To me, it came off like Jalen might not talk to you or give you the intel that some other players give you, and maybe you don't like that. I don't know. I thought it was a weird look. His show got canceled. Birds, let me tell you something, Birds. I know a lot more about this business than you do. There's a lot of different reasons for show cancellations, okay? And many times it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with the talent of the person on air. Emmanuel Acho is a goofy sometimes. He gets a lot of clicks. And in football, you're gauged on wins and stats. If you're a janitor, you're gauged on how well you clean the place. If you're in media, you're gauged on how many people you can reach, how successful you are at doing that. Whether you like him or not, I don't really give a fuck, brother. He's very successful. So you don't have to like him. I'm not telling you got to like him, but he does do a good job. Here's Suo Blaze. What's up, Suo? Z, if we could trade Bond for a good pick before he gets too old and sign Dean on a cheap deal, would you do it? Only thing that scares me is Dean's injuries. Sue, I brought this up a little earlier in the offseason. I got ripped by the great people in the chat. I got ripped because I said that's like Bill Belichick type of move, right? You got a 30-year-old backer who's paid a lot, who was good, but maybe his best days are behind him. I don't know. How good can Zach Bond continue to be? I think he had a good year. I'm not saying I want to get rid of Bond, but 30-year-old and you got a 25-year-old in the wings. I don't know. And he's cheaper. I think it's a fair question. I would probably try and keep them all and then move Bond after the year. But look, I know that I'm not grounded in reality with this comment. And it's a business and it's ruthless and whatever. If I'm the owner of the team, I walk to my GM and say, Nakobe Dean's not leaving the building. I don't give a fuck what it costs. I don't give a shit what our cap situation is. I don't care what it changes for you. Sign Nakobe Dean. He's not leaving the building. The guy represents the organization perfectly. He's a stone cold leader. He's a flat out good player when he's been on the football field. He does everything right. I want the guy on the team. And the $8 million I want to give him is not all football related. That's what I would say. Again, I'm a dummy on YouTube. I'm not an owner. I'm not a general manager. I don't know. I'm not professing to know it all. That's what I would do. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it realistic, doesn't make it probable. But that's what I would do. I would not let Nakobe Dean walk. Very, very, very few players in the NFL have the type of I think, professionalism and mentality and approach and personality that Dean has, and the reason I say if I was an owner, because you would think, I care about JAKIB. I care about my businesses. Jeffrey Lurie cares about his baby, his businesses. I think Dean is as good of a representation and as good of a representative of that business as you can possibly find. I don't think it gets much better. Now, I get it. He's not a quarterback. He's not like the number one star, but that's a freaking dude I'd want on my team. That's just my opinion. Anthony Hunt, Zander, in your opinion, should Sirianni be on the hot seat? Well, my opinion doesn't matter much. I think he is on the hot seat. I think that's the truth. Should he be on the hot seat? You can make an argument that they're both on the hot seat, Jalen and Nick, and neither of them should be. This is where I bring up, like, I'll rip, and I do it a lot. I get called a hater sometimes, whatever. That's not, you don't go through a season and everything is perfect, right? There's moments where you're going to be upset at certain players or a receiver or a quarterback or whatever. I will also 100% acknowledge. I just said if I was the owner, I'd pay Nakobe. You don't fucking put a coach or a quarterback on the hot seat a year removed from a Super Bowl where they were a big part of it. Do I have gripes sometimes with the way Jalen Hurts plays? Absolutely. Am I moving on from Jalen Hurts because I have grandiose visions of somebody that maybe runs a prettier style offense? Come on, man. We're being naive. We're being stupid. And I admit it. I'm stupid sometimes too. And this is where I think the owner maybe deserves some, I don't want to call it criticism, but and maybe it's a good thing. Maybe I'm way wrong on this. Maybe the constant need, maybe the zero patience approach is a good thing. Constant improvement. It's never enough. Maybe that there is some good to that. But we're talking about coaching the quarterback in the hot seat. Guys, we won the fucking Super Bowl a year ago. A year tomorrow, February 14th. I'll never forget that day. February 14th, 2025. I was in Philadelphia. On Broad Street, parading. That wasn't even a year ago. It's a year tomorrow. You're coaching the quarterback in the hot seat? Come on, man. Come on. Does Jalen Hurts play the game like everybody wants him to play the game? No. Does Nick Sirianni coach like everybody wants him to coach? No. That's just my take. But I do think he's on the hot seat. Here's James Carver. What's up, James? Sorry I didn't read this to J-Mac. This is a good one, and I completely forgot about my supers today. Sorry, guys. James Carver says, is J-Mac really just grilling out back, and that's why he's hiding? Because J-Mac's in a better mood with people doing his pet peeve of not listening, because that Kelce misquoting and cherry picking should have resulted in a patented stop it. I agree, James. I agree a hundo P, brother. I agree a hundo P. All right. I agree a hundo P. John was in a better mood today. I agree. He let it roll off the shoulder a little more. Here's my boy Roll Philly. What's up, Roll? Good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. Would you trade AJ in a third or fourth for Worthy and McDuffie? Well, Roll, I love you, brother, but that's kind of pie in the sky shit, right? I mean, I don't think that's like ever would be a probable trade. But in theory, yeah, I would. I mean, I don't think that would be enough to get the job done. McDuffie's a premium player, dude. I mean, that's a premium cornerback right there. I don't know. I try and live in like realism. I don't want to entertain stuff but for the sake of talk shows, you do entertain stuff that's not likely sometimes. That's part of doing it, and it's what makes it fun at times. Also makes people angry at times. That's part of the game too. I would probably do that trade. Yeah, I'd probably do that trade. I mean, you get a guy stretch the field type of receiver. Manufactured touch type of receiver, and you get a star cornerback for AJ in a fourth, AJ in a third. I'd probably do that. But I don't think that would ever be possible, to be frank. Just to be clear, I don't think that would ever be possible. But I would probably do that, yeah. Just because I think AJ's not bought in anymore. And I love AJ and I want him to be here. But, the one thing that bothered me about the AJ thing, because I defended him really the whole year, the playoff game pissed me off. I mean, and I get it. It pissed everybody off because of the drops. But like, dude, you can't fucking bark like that. And then in the biggest moment when the quarterback trusts you, gives you an opportunity, puts the ball where it needed to be. I mean, I heard some people, the ball wasn't there. The ball was fucking there. The ball hit his hands. I mean, you're going to fucking alienate everybody on the offense, the OC, the quarterback, with the comments earlier in the year, which I agreed with. The offense sucked. And then when push comes to shove and the biggest pressure moments of the season come and your quarterback trusts you in a big-time spot, you don't catch the football because you're not focused, because you're upset about week 10? Come on, brother. So that's the part that bothered me about AJ this year, was that, if you make that play, yeah, your bitching is warranted. The offense wasn't good. And when they asked you to make plays, you made plays. But now you bitch that the offense wasn't good. And then when the ball came to you to make plays, you didn't make plays. Make plays. Why should Jalen Hurts trust you? You bitch. You make him answer questions at every press conference he has to do 3 times a week at the podium. And then when he throws the ball to you in crunch time, you don't fucking catch it. If I were Jalen Hurts, I'd be pissed off too. I try and call the strikes, a strike. I do love AJ, but come on, man. That's unacceptable stuff right there. That's unacceptable. Carver, what's up, Carver? Would you trade AJ in both seconds for Crosby, Garrett, and the greatest multiple? James, it sometimes feels like I'm entertaining that, brother. Like stuff like that, No, I wouldn't entertain that. Just kidding. Yes, I would, obviously. Garrett, you know me, Carver. I'm ready to give the house for Myles Garrett, dude. That dude's a fucking beast. Dude's a fucking beast. All right. Dude's a beast. Fredo says you can't trade AJ with a new offense. You got to see what it looks like in the new offense. Well, then tell him to stop getting his fucking panties in a bind and not making and dropping balls because he's not focused. I don't believe AJ Brown dropped balls in the playoff game because he lost a step or his hands aren't as good or he's not the same player anymore. I don't believe any of that shit. I believe AJ Brown wasn't focused. AJ Brown stopped caring to the same degree. AJ Brown stopped giving 110% any given time he stepped on the football field. That's what I believe. And I still love A.J. Brown. And I think he's probably the best receiver we've ever had in Philly, certainly in my lifetime. I know T.O. was better, but T.O. was 1 year. Catch the fucking ball, man. The ball came. The ball hit you in the hands. It's the playoffs. It's win or go home. The quarterback needs you to make a play. Catch the ball. Catch the ball. We're not having these combos. Pump says, Zander, did you use that website yet? Brother, that's a realistic model, unlike Roll Philly's insignificant trade proposals. No, I didn't use the website yet, Pump, but that you always have a way to make a real comment funny. All right. Roll Philly, sorry you caught the strays. Oh, that's funny as shit. That is funny, man. Roll, man, you're catching strays, Roll. You're catching strays. That's pretty funny. And Pieta says, AJ will tell you, get the ball out on time, on target. Well, Pieta, did the ball hit your hands or not? Did the ball hit the hands or not? If I'm going to criticize Jalen Hurts when I believe Jalen Hurts needs to be better, well, guess what? Let's be consistent. I got to rip my boy AJ too if he doesn't deliver the goods. Same goes for everybody. I can't guarantee you'll like or agree with everything I said, but I will try and be honest and call a strike and a ball a ball. Here we go. Hung me out. Oh, all right. It's a football Friday. Should I start ripping people left and right, yo? Should I start fucking ripping fools left and right? Ready for this guy? Hung me out. First off, what the fuck is hung me out? Second off, he says this. 2023 and 2025 failures were on Sirianni's trash offense. Let me guess, hung me out. Let me guess, brother. The 22 and 24 successes have nothing to do with Nick Sirianni. Did I get that right? When they succeed, Nick has nothing to do with it. But when they fail, it's all on Nick Sirianni, right? Did I get that right? Hung me out. Success, it's not Nick's fault, Nick's credit at all. Failure, it's all on you, Nick. That doesn't even compute. That doesn't even reach the reasoning of a normal 5-year-old. You call me a Sirianni lover. I don't give a shit who I love or hate. You need to up your intelligence level, my friend. Your IQ is room temperature. That doesn't even make sense. There is not a world that exists where that is a logical thought process. When they fail, it's all on him. If they have success, he's got nothing to do with it. It doesn't make sense. Use your brain. He's mad at me now. I love you, buddy. I'm just having some fun. We're talking football. Relax, big guy. Relax, big guy. Fake Eagle fan. Oh, did I hurt your feelings? Your reasoning is trash, and you should upgrade your processor in your brain. All right? Drozone, good point. Good point. All right? Good point. Fucking hung me out here. If they fail, it's all Nick. But if they succeed, like I want you guys to actually think about that. Jokes aside, I don't want to rip you hung me out anymore. But jokes aside, like actually think about that. If somebody has such an impact that every time the team doesn't reach expectations, it's all on them. Think about that for a second. Think about how big of an impact you have to have for a football team which has 22 starters, 53 men on the roster, about 15 coaches, a GM, an owner, and 500 guys in the front office. Think about that. How much impact you have to have for it to be all on the coach. That when they have success, the coach who was so impactful when it didn't work has nothing to do with it. Do you guys understand where I'm coming from with this? Do you understand how flawed this reasoning and this logic is? You understand? I'm sure you understand, right? Come on, man. You're driving me to drink. Here's Carver. Yippee, Z taking over for J-Mac being on Xanax. That's true. That's true, Carver. I'm fired up. Hey, Z, peep the super. Let me check it out. Here's Roll Phillies. That website said you could trade Crosby for AJ straight up. About as realistic as Ringo and CB2. And Roll Philly claps back. Brian Pumper. You just got put in the blender. Oh, my. Roll Philly said, I ain't going down without a fight. Oh, my. Roll Philly putting Brian Pumper in the NutriBullet. Oh, baby. That is classic. That is classic. That is classic. And here's Kareem. What up, Kareem? Good to see you, bro. Nick sucks as a head coach. He doesn't make adjustments in the offseason the years that he wins. Yeah, I know. Kareem, I love you, brother. I know you're a great viewer and a great supporter consistently here. But I want you to use that big boy brain. Okay? I want you to use it. Please use it, Kareem. I know you're a smarter guy than the other meow guy we just talked to. All right? Use that noggin. Use it, dog. Here's Pump. Pumper's got a clap back. Let's see what it is. Roll Philly just lied. Zander, don't listen to that Jalen Hurts jock strap sniffer. Oh, baby. Pump, not your best rebuttal. Pumper, not your, I'm calling ref on this matchup. Not your best rebuttal. I have Roll Philly slightly in the lead. Hold on. Roll Philly is sitting out in front. Roll Philly is out in front right now. Can you believe it? Pumper is losing the troll off. Oh, man. Nothing like a little bit of fun on a football Friday. All right. Nothing like a little bit of fun on a football Friday. But he lied. Not a viable trade. Did he lie? It still was a good rip, Paul. Sometimes you got to lie to make a good rip, you know? I'm not a liar. I don't like lying. That's my fiance. She gets fired up. She's like, can't you just lie to people? You know, you always have to be honest so that it upsets the apple cart. Yes, babe, I do. All right? So that when I rest peacefully for eternity in my coffin, I know I wasn't a man that lacked integrity. I was an honest man. I was a truthful man. Okay? Yes. I don't care about Billy and Cindy getting upset with me at the table because I was honest. Billy and Cindy will live with it. Okay? Be honest, folks. Lying is not a good trait. Pumper just got rolled over. Pump, you better clap back, brother. You're getting bodied right now in this chat. You are getting absolutely cooked on a skillet. You're like, what's it called when you get the skewers and you hang them over the fire and they like rotate like this? They like rotate. They go like this. Woo. What's that called? This is Pump right now. Over the fire. It's not got a nice crisp outside, crunchy and crispy. Yeah, rotisserie, a pumper kebab. Embrace, that's good work by you. A rotisserie chicken. Oh no, Pump, they're calling you a rotisserie. Dog, I just picked you up at BJ's or at Costco. Come on, Pump. I'm heading to the Walmart today to pick up a Brian Pumper. A rotisserie in the back section. Oh, man. A pumper kebab. Reyes, that's a great one. Fleming, you got it, brother. Brian Fleming, your comment a little bit ago. You got it. All right? I'd rather be honest. Brutally honest. Let me see if I got any more supers in the great duel. He says, all right, we got a couple more, folks. The battle continues. Roll Philly follows up on the jockstrap sniffer comment and says this. The website says AJ's player value is 400 and Crosby's 372. That's curtains, Pump. That's pretty close. Now, I don't know how the website works, but Roll Philly, that was immediate. Roll Philly. Take a lesson from one of the greatest troll artists of all time. And I'm going to upset some people with the name, but, Donald Trump knows how to troll a motherfucker. All right. You remember when Megyn Kelly at one of the first debates ever was going at Trump for his comments on women, right? And he didn't give any credence to her comment. He turned it into a joke and he said, only Rosie O'Donnell. And the whole crowd erupted in laughter. You know what that is, Roll? That's called narrative control. All right? That's called narrative control. He didn't buy into the bullshit narrative. He turned it into a hilarious moment that brought the audience right back to his side of the aisle and completely, without even having to respond to it, debunked the attack on him. Okay? There's an art to that, Roll. You gave him too much credit by playing into his narrative. You should have just avoided addressing that and continued on the attack. All right? I'm putting you guys on game right now. His pump. What a pump. Here's the follow-up from Pump. Zander, wipe that roll Philly glaze off your lip. Shut the fuck up, Pump. Is that the best you had to come up with? That's the best you had to come up with? Come on, man. Remember what he called Ted Cruz's wife? Oh, Fleming, he's one of the greatest trollers of all time. Whether you like him or not, I don't care. Yeah, man, fills these pockets, guys. I ain't hating, but y'all, I don't know what you're saying. Here's James Carver. Then be truthful about your Auburn closet where you dress up as Albie, as your dad says, as your sad on your sad days. I fucking hate Auburn. Like, there's like nothing about dude. Alabama is like, I love Alabama, but like it's a desolate state in the sense of there's no pro sports teams. There's no, like, they're a college state, right? You're not even like, I think Alabama at Birmingham gets more love than Auburn. You're like secondary in the college department. Nobody cares about Auburn, Carver. Nobody. And yes, Carver, you're not safe from my shredding today. Nobody cares about Auburn. Nobody. The only people who care about Auburn are the Alabama haters who get happy every once in a blue moon when you guys win the Iron Bowl. That's it. No, it's like the Mets. Nobody gives a shit about the Mets. Or the Islanders. Nobody cares about the Islanders. You're second fiddle. You're not even the Don Dada. Nobody gives a rat's ass. Nobody, Carver. And I love you, brother. Nobody gives a shit. Get out my fucking Bama lid. Get out my Bama lid for the rest of the show today. Nobody gives a rat's ass about Auburn, Carver. Not a single soul, Carver. Nobody. All right? Nobody. Damn, this lid is dope. Woo! Are you kidding me? How'd the Islanders end up catching strays? That was a good one, wasn't it? A freaking good rip job by me. Well done. No Diddy. Here comes Fleming. Ready? Here comes Fleming with the no rip job. Here it comes. The no Diddy. Here it comes from the diddlers in the chat. Zander put his flex. I can't do any accents, dude. My fiance actually really good at that. She could do like British. She could do all these accents. I'm like, I just talk like me. I don't know how to do it. Coach Zabin. Let's go, baby. Coach Zabin. Come on. You know, I did that. You got to do the head for the thing where you slam the headphone on the ground. Oh, come on. Come on, Slag. You're taking shots at the hat? I picked this up on the Alabama campus on game day. It might have been one of the days that we were beating the living piss out of Auburn. Actually, I think it was the Ole Miss game. We won 63-3 that day. I actually remember that game vividly. All right, I'm getting out of here. I'm done shredding people today. I'm done shredding. Slagger, don't make me put you in a fucking blender, my guy. I'm getting out of here. You can save yourself, Slagger. Okay? Don't make me blend you up too. You'll be in the Brian Pumper Roll Philly soup and the meow cat soup. Shred that hat, Keith. Keith, I will fucking shred. Keith, there's nobody I got more ammo on than you in this chat, dude. I will freaking annihilate you, Keith. Don't tempt me, brother. Don't tempt me, Keith. Look at Brian Pump, spoken like a true loser. Zander, not your best performance today. Bounce back next week. Pump, I ripped you today, Pump. And so did Roll Philly, who got a W over you. You know, Pump, look. Pump, I'll rip you when you deserve the ripping. And most of the time, Pump, I think you're the top troll, the top funny guy in the chat. I give you it. But today, Pump, you took a blazing L. I mean, that thing left a mark on your arm that might never leave. All right? That's how bad your L was today. And it was at the hands of Roll Philly dogs. It was at the hand of Roll Philly dogs who put you in a paper shredder and tossed you out back to the recycle bin. All right? On trash day. You got taken out already. There's one more super before I get out of here. Carver says, Z is on tilt as desired. And one more. Y'all were all concerned about Auburn when we legitimately signed Cam, and you said it was money. No money, just Auburn greatness. What am I in? What are we talking about? 1944? Oh, fuck, Cam Newton? Holy shit, dude. That was like, that was like decades ago. Was I even born yet? I mean, this is how you know Auburn's down bad. They're still living in the days of when Cam Newton signed. I don't think he signed there. Didn't he transfer there? He transferred there. Where did he transfer from? Was it Florida? What did Cam Newton transfer from? Where did he transfer from? Yeah, he transferred from Florida. He didn't even choose you. You were a second option to Cam Newton, too. You weren't even the first option for your best player. Oh, my goodness. The Islanders was being generous. The Islanders was being generous. The Mets was being nice. Oh, why? I was being too nice. You were the second option to your own best player. Oh, man, that is funny. Carver, it's a tough, man, it must be a tough life to be an Auburn guy. It really must be a tough life to be an Auburn guy. I mean, it's almost like life in the perma-cup chair. You can't get out. You're like strapped in. You know, your allegiance is there. You can't like bail on them. I know you have actual allegiance there too, Carver, but like you're like strapped in. You can't get out. I can't be bigger and better than Alabama, and I can't get out. Take me out of my misery. Just take me out of my misery. We're still living in the glory days. Remember that one time we beat Alabama on the punt at the end of the game or the kick at the end of the game? Oh, honey, how great was that day? Honey, I don't remember that day. That was quite a long time ago. Oh, honey, just let me enjoy. Kalen DeBoers. I'm not a Kalen DeBoer guy either. All right. I'm not a Kalen DeBoer guy, but all right, guys. I love you all. Good show today, man. Fun show. Fun football Friday, like it always is. All right. A fun football Friday, like it always is. And I appreciate each and every one of you, even the people I rip. Pump, I love you. I know you're upset with me today, Pump. It's okay. Roll Philly, good work by you today, brother. Appreciate you being here. Drozone, flexing and stepping. Love you, brother. Appreciate you. Brian Fleming. Appreciate you, brother. Hero name Oblivion. Look at this guy from Twitch. I think he watches us on YouTube too. Roll damn Tide. Yes, sir. Slagger. Slagger with a good rip on the way out. Zay, you have health insurance problems. Keep wearing that hat. You'll qualify for Medicare. Oh, Slagger. Get your house in order, Slagger. Come on, man. Keese, not your best day, brother. All right. Zander, SMH. Later, Z. Have a great day, boys and girls. Another day above ground is another day to dominate. Look at that. That's the real comment of the day. Roll, I love that approach. That's how I take every day. Let's go be great. Come on. I got shit to accomplish. I got businesses to build. I got places to be. I got things to do. I got one life. You know, I could die. I could perish tomorrow. I got one freaking life. You're going to waste it? You got one life and you're not going to do what you want to do in life? I mean, think about that. That's even stupider than the logic that Meow used about Nick Sirianni. You got one time on this planet, and it's a blip in the radar, and you're going to let life smack you around like this. Fuck that. Go get it. Go do what you need to do today. Own and dominate your own life. I love all you guys. That's it from me today. See you next time, everybody.
EAGLES. Eagles.